Well, hi there. I thought I would jump on and speak to you guys, and I can feel a channeled message trying to come through. So I hope you will help me with that, and I'll just see as it shows up in layers. And as always, I'm talking to myself and to my guides at the same time as I'm sharing that message with you guys. And I hope that at that same time that your guides are helping you to find the parts that resonate. That's where the tingles come in. That's where the feelings start to move. That's where your heart starts to flutter, or maybe there's a twitch in your body. This is all sort of indications that we are aligning somewhere, the energetic plane, or within our being, to information that our body likes to listen to, our guides want us to hear. And sometimes these messages are a long time coming. I've been having a lot of conversations with myself lately, gathering data from my external world, gathering data from conversations that people have been having with me, and listening to people's stories and absorbing my own content and other people's content to understand what is actually trying to come through. And I'll show you the way that I do it. I will be using some cards to get those next parts out of me, just so that I am not getting too comfortable with my ego running the show. I know where I'm starting, and eclipse season has this beautiful way of just not letting me move away from what I need to know, what I need to do, what I need to understand. We are sort of in this portal of change. And even though I love understanding it, it's not about understanding it. It's just about being in it and watching and feeling things shift. But my medicine comes through when I can understand things and bring language to them and think about them on a multidimensional level, understand them within myself, then move towards supporting other people to understand something similar or the same shifts within themselves. And where I want to start with is loneliness. That's where I want to begin. A beautiful conversation I've been having with myself for quite a few years now around what actually stirs loneliness, what takes us there, what is the feeling trying to teach us, how do we experience it in the body, what does it call to us. It is 100% in my mind not something that needs to be fixed. It's something that wants to be heard, something that wants to be acknowledged. Just like so many of the things that we feel, they're not always indicators of what's happening or what is wrong, or maybe what we're not even doing well enough. You know, we have this stigma around that feeling a lot is some kind of weakness or something that needs therapy for, or we go to fix so quickly. But loneliness has been speaking to me for quite a few years, and I've been noticing it in other people as well. And it's certainly something that is brought to the surface even more so with not only the isolation that Australia has always spoken to me about. It's a place where there's a lot of land and not a huge population, and we are spread out in comparison. And we do have a lot of land that is uninhabitable, that is harsh, that is really nature not wanting human contact. We have a lot of that. I speak to a lot of foreign people from different cultures around. Although Australians are friendly, we can be not so interested in community. We can be still very much a part of that isolation that this land calls to us about. Loneliness to me is becoming such an interesting aspect of people's makeup, their DNA, their genetics, the way that they hold themselves, the way that they're stirred into action. Some parts about loneliness that I do know for sure is it is one of the deepest callings back to ourselves, not to people. And if when we try and fix loneliness with people, we can get further away. I know loneliness can be cultivated very strongly when we're around the wrong people. Now, wrong doesn't mean bad. Wrong doesn't mean cruel. Wrong doesn't mean deficient in any way. It just means that we aren't finding that connection. We're not finding a reflection in their eyes that makes us more connected to ourselves. Loneliness can stem from when you aren't doing the things that you need to be well. I see this the most in the isolation that people convince themselves of when they're not doing what self-love means. Self-love means going out there and finding environments, people, hobbies, action, connection that you need, despite social awkwardness, despite social anxiety, despite the fear of being judged, despite that it's scary. What part of us needs to just be ignited with that deep sense of love? You know, no parent would have the capacity really to separate their child away from community to a certain extent. We know we're hardwired for connection. We need people around us. It doesn't mean we're not resilient. It doesn't mean that we can't fend for ourselves on our own. We 100% certainly can if we need to. But we always know that there'll be a part of us that longs for what we need. And if you were governing the life of a child, and if you were making those decisions for someone you loved, you would have to weigh it up. What environments do I put them in so that they get connections? What environments do I protect them from so they don't see those reflections that cause pain and suffering sometimes? Being around people that not even not like-minded or not like-hearted, more that can present threats to the parts of us that want to feel love, the parts of us that want to do good, the parts of us that want to create a better world. There are people out there that don't. They have no interest in changing the world. They have no interest in unconditional love. They have no interest in respecting the earth. They have no interest in what other people need. That's the reality of it. So our loneliness is showing up now so that we can understand a different paradigm of thought that's coming through, a different paradigm of being. I don't know how many people I've worked in the last few years that haven't said to me in the depths of their honesty and vulnerability that, yeah, they'd love more people around. They would love true connection. They would love depth. They would love intimacy, not just with their partner, with friends, family members. We want that closeness. We know it's good for us. But how many times are we subject to pain or neglect or abandonment or any version of that didn't feel good, that we start to micromanage our heart space even more? And it's so easy to blame outside of us. It's so easy to blame the selfish people, the narcissists, the ones that don't give a fuck, the ones that are too unhealed, the traumatized ones, the asleep ones, whatever label it is that you find yourself putting on other people. If you pull your gaze away from that label and you see the contrast, which is people that I see have those labels are teaching me about myself. And I experience loneliness when I don't see myself for those beautiful concepts that I can create. And if we truly saw ourselves and truly looked at what our needs were, they would tell us truth, stories about how it is we're going to foster more of these things that keep us in connection. Because when you're connected to yourself, you can be a continent away from any other soul. You can be in the depths of the desert with nobody around. And if you're connected to yourself, you won't feel alone and you won't feel lonely. So that calling back to ourselves, and it's interesting what comes through in the eclipse season is really saying, fostering that connection, nurturing it, protecting it, loving it, understanding it, accepting it is the start of working with loneliness as a teacher. Thank you, Kookaburra. So if we really understand that and we prioritize it and we honor it, hopefully we move closer to ourselves, away from the hate and the anger and the resentment and the despair. These are natural emotions. We're going to feel them. Think about the reflection of your soul right now and what's being reflected in the world. When we put our hate and our disgust and our distrust on an external factor, we go to war with it and we fight it and we flee from it and we freeze in it. It's a trauma response. But if we can relax into it and say, okay, when I go to war with these things, I get the loneliness. It creeps in. It finds me. And it's not about saying like, oh, I'm in the wrong environment. I'm lonely. Okay, I got to fix that. It's more, wow, that's interesting. I'm surrounded by people. And I even think these people might have a common value system, but I'm separating from myself. And what causes that separation? And what can we do with it? And as we open that door, it's not an easy door. It's a bit of a confronting door. It's a scary one because we just want to believe that old school 3D model of cause and effect. Loneliness equals not enough people. It's not the case. The 5D vibration of loneliness calls to me as there's a whole new level of you connecting and seeing yourself that you haven't got to yet. And it's in those situations and in those relationships where it shows up that I'm being called. And that call is my guide saying, you know, there's more here. There's more here. And it's sometimes in our past that we find the keys to our loneliness. So I ask myself a lot, the pain in my past, I try and help it to find me the missing keys to the now that I need to know to move forward in the right way, to see life in the way that it's trying to find me, that it's trying to see me in. It's really hard to let go of pain, particularly when you feel like someone caused it. This is the trap of trauma. This is the trap of heartache. But we were never meant to be trapped by it forever. We're meant to unlock it. We're meant to understand it. We're meant to accept it. We're meant to find the freedom point and turn it around. And that can be so hard because your 3D ego wants to blame that person forever. or possibly not even the person. Maybe you can forgive the person, but then you want to label the person and say, well, they identify with this. I see them as that. Now I have to be careful of all of those people that resonate with that. Again, our hearts harden. We still are being called to more. And if your heart hardens based on understanding something outside of you that has caused you pain, and you harden towards, well, I'm just going to never trust a person like that again, or never let a person like that in, or I'm never going to be in that situation again. Notice if that causes loneliness. Because if we, really beautiful bug, if we let that define us, loneliness will follow. And it's a calling. We first go back into our past. There's something in there. There's a soul retrieval that needs to happen. There's a key to the kingdom. Your soul hasn't set up those events for no reason. It's very intelligent, your evolution. It's very intelligent what your soul is providing for you. It's just that we are a fragment of that in physical form. But even just remembering how potent and how much potential we have once we unlock ourselves from the 3D conditioning, the day-to-day stimulation, the nervous system, everything like that, once we get glimpses of how much we can understand in one moment and how free we can feel, then we start to think on a new scale. And it's funny because loneliness is a calling for me that pulls me into that mastery, that sovereignty, that ever expansive place where I can say, okay, if I had it all figured out, I'd feel $1 million right now, and I don't. Feeling lonely. So where am I causing those shortcomings, those hardenings of the heart, those very subtle forms of self-sabotage in this moment? It's not deliberate. It's actually surprising. The last time I felt loneliness, I was in a big group of people, huge, big thinkers, very exciting place, beautiful concepts. And I thought, yeah, this is where I need to be. And loneliness shows up. I think that's very interesting. It doesn't make sense, which means my logical mind isn't sensing loneliness and creating a story around it. My feeling sense tells me, and my feeling sense is related to my body, which is connected to my higher self and my guides. So then I'm instantly connected, thinking, what are you guys up to now? And it intrigues me. My curiosity comes in, and I think, if this was exactly where I was meant to be, in exactly the expression that links into my soul vibration, I probably would be feeling something like euphoria, connection, elation, contentment, peace, fulfillment. Something that signaled to me, yeah, this is exactly the timestamp to give me the confirmation kick of more of this, please. Do more of this. Yes, please. But instead, the kick was something that was separating me from myself. And then the story unfolds. And it unfolds and it unfolds. And I straight away am sinking into that loneliness is a spiritual journey. And perhaps those deepest parts of ourselves, the parts of ourselves that call to us in those interesting situations, are a direct communication with Source. And if I had still believed that loneliness equals lack of people, I might in that moment have quite a trauma response to reaching out to someone, to explaining my feelings. And certainly that helps. And certainly that is such a beautiful remedy. But instead, I answered the call within to sit with that teacher once again and say, so interesting that you come up in these situations, in these environments, to stir me towards something bigger, to stir me towards that this isn't quite it right now. And if I was in the this is it feeling, I would have had a completely different experience following. And now I find myself ruminating, trying to understand, trying to seek out the energy and the vibration that I would like to call in and cultivate and understand. I'm okay when loneliness shows up. We are good friends. I understand so much about my own loneliness and that I see in others. I am developing a story and more data around it for myself and for others. But what I really wanted to harness in that moment, and what I would like to move towards, is a more creative and empowering frequency of, yes, this is where I find connection to myself. This is what I need in order to grow. This is my creative vortex opening up. This feeling is where I step into that new version of myself. This is me answering the call, not being summoned towards something greater. And when we step up into that vibration, we don't always know what situation will set it off. We don't always know when our body will signal to us, yes, this is it. In this moment, we are the sovereign being we've been trying to be. In this moment, we are that version of ourselves that's been calling. In this moment, we step up into our power with grace, humility, peace, kindness. And when it is not that moment and loneliness calls, we can say, I'm not there yet. And I shall sit and understand what that teacher is asking of me. I can go within. I can understand. I can do the work. I can call on my guides. I can sit in silence. I can move my body. I can call on my support. And I can unlock within me where I can actually be. And I believe that that is the place that we can once again move through those tugs of loneliness that come to us. I also believe that there's a collective nature to this loneliness too. We are going through a very interesting paradigm. We're changing very quickly. I understand where you all are. It's not easy, this path of forever awareness, of always moving through, of staying in contact with ourselves, of the shadow work, of the therapy, of the vulnerability, of the honesty, and protecting your heart, particularly when you understand that your heart is longing for connection all the time, is wanting to love everything all the time. And you see that so many people are not in that frequency. But instead of seeing that as a threat, let us call you to where you are trying to be. Let us set up the environments and the actions and the risks that you must take to be in that creative matrix, to be in that vortex, to be living in alignment with your soul's potential for what it can create here. So if there's any part of you that's been stuck, and any part of you that's been frustrated, and any part of you that has been lonely, and it can just be a part of you, it doesn't have to be the whole thing. You have so many complex parts, so much multi-dimensional, incredible creative energy. And when it's just one part calling to you, I ask you to sit and listen to what it might be calling you towards. In my experience, it doesn't always say, you're doing wrong, or these people are shit. It actually says, look, it's all wonderful. It's all beautiful. But it could be moving towards a greater version of yourself. And if there's anything that helps us move forward, it's action, and taking action in the right way. I'm not saying it's not scary, it is. I'm not saying there's not resistance, there is. But moving forward towards that version of yourself will help you feel more divinely connected to yourself. And if you're connected to yourself and you can cultivate self-love, and I know that's not easy either, then from that place, it doesn't matter what we experience and what signals in our body and what we go through, we will always have the nurture that we need. And from that place, we can provide for ourselves. We can go out there and take those risks and be vulnerable and call out to people and have supportive networks and be creative individuals and create the change that we want, and go out there and have beautifully aligned businesses and care about the planet and each other and protect each other in that, and say, I see you in your enormous ability to show up for yourself and show up for this world in the best way that you are capable of. And that is rare. It's very rare. So I hope that we can do that for each other. And I hope that when loneliness shows up, you can be there for yourself, and you can reach out to the right people, and you can ask for the guidance that I know that we all need sometimes. I'm going to leave you with that. I love you so much. Have a beautiful day. Hey, lovelies. If you're resonating with this content, don't forget to like it and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out, helps out the channel, helps us to make beautiful content for you all. Don't forget to comment down below too if you want to share your experiences, ask us a question, and send in some requests. We'd love to know what you want more videos about. Once again, thank you for watching, and we love you all so much.